welcome to the What Are You Reading podcast with the Public Library of Mount Vernon in Knox County. My name is Christy.
And I'm Katie.
And this month, we decided to oddly, and we did not even talk about this, but Katie just pointed it out. We picked like some really dark books and like even covers. Like, there was a theme. Mm-hmm. You can tell we've worked together for quite a long time now.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like we're vibing.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean, we do tend to talk about it when we pick books for the podcast, but we didn't have this in mind at all. But.
No, because there wasn't a holiday or anything for us to work around. So it was just like, really, what are you reading right now?
Yeah, like September is that month, right? In the year where you just kind of feel like you're in the middle. Like you're in the middle of summer, you're in the middle of fall. Mm-hmm. But you know, with me, of course, like I'm already getting spooky. So it's, you know, about that time where I'm feeling like, okay, I want to read some darker stuff, getting ready for Halloween. And that kind of played into this book for me a little bit, because it is kind of dark. Now, we both did dark. Mine's fantasy.
And mine is a murder mystery.
So that's a really nice choice, right, this month. So we got a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I really want to talk about yours.
Okay.
Because we had gone on a trip, and we got to see where some of the audiobooks that we know and love are recorded. Mm-hmm. And this happened to be one of those titles that was recorded locally here in Ohio.
Yeah, it was really funny because Hoopla, if you don't have Hoopla, you need to get it.
Absolutely.
It's free through the library. Many of us at the library just happened to be like, oh, I want to read that because it was advertised at the top of Hoopla.
Yeah.
And I bought it as a book, but then when we went on that tour, I'm like, oh, well, now I have to listen to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very well done, and it is available on Hoopla.
Yeah, and you can access that on our website. If you go to our online services on like the left-hand side of the page, all you need is your library card. It's going to ask you to like create a password, use your email, but use your library card, and you can download movies, books, music, all kinds of good stuff on there just using your library card.
Yeah, and a lot of the books, they have an electronic copy as well as an audiobook. So whatever suits your fancy.
Absolutely. And we can't forget Libby. Libby's awesome too.
Yes, Libby is great.
We both use both of them because Libby's very similar. You're going to use your library card, and you can access ebooks and audiobooks through Libby. So it's a little bit different, and it is a different selection. So it works more like a traditional library where you might have to wait. You might be on hold for an item, but it is still, you know, if I don't find it on Hoopla, I'll look on Libby and vice versa.
Yeah, same. We always recommend that people download both apps.
For sure.
So, but anyways, my book is The Woman in the Library by Sulari Gentill. It's a really interesting concept. So it is framed, the story is framed around a famous writer and her beta reader. So she's in the midst of writing this book and is emailing pages to, the author's name is Hannah, and then she's emailing them to Leo for his take on it. One thing is, this is really timely because it does take place during COVID. And Hannah, excuse me, Hannah is Australian, and she's writing a book about the reading room in the Boston Public Library. She can't get on a plane to go. Leo happens to live in Boston, so he's kind of giving her that color. And then most of the book is actually Hannah's manuscript. And I know you've read it too. Honestly, I fell in love with the characters of her book. I really cared about what was happening to them.
Yeah.
It didn't even cross my mind that these people were fake. Like two degrees of fake.
Yeah.
Because this is a fiction book.
It's very like an Inception moment.
Yes.
You know, there's so many layers to it, and you honestly forget what you're reading.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the end of each manuscript chapter is a little email or some kind of correspondence that brings us back to Hannah and Leo's story, which there is a story to that. So, at first I wasn't sure I was going to like that dynamic, because it's like, just tell me the story. Yeah. But it really worked. And what happens in the manuscript is these 4 strangers are in the reading room of the Boston Public Library, and then they hear a scream. And
give me chills.
Yes, I know, right? They hear a woman scream, and then they have to stay because the police want to interview everybody. So then they develop this friendship around this scream, which ends up being a murder. So they actually find the body of the woman like a couple hours later. So then they decide to investigate a little bit. And they're 4 completely different characters. And as an interesting aside, the main character of the manuscript, her name is Freddie. She is also a writer. And she is writing a book that turns out to be the story of the woman in the library. So yes, that Inception thing. Right. I always said it was life imitating art, imitating life.
Absolutely.
So it's not confusing. It is set up in a really good way that you don't get confused.
It's such an easy read. It's written so well that it's very approachable. It's you're gonna fall in love with it. And I listened to the audiobook. I haven't read the paper, but I really want to, because I think that it gives it such dimension to ingest both ways. You know, the audiobook takes a totally different life, I feel like.
Sure, yeah. And then the pacing, you have a little bit more control over reading the book, although you can adjust the reading speed on Hoopla. And I always have mine going a little bit faster than
I tend to as well.
But I too listen to it. I haven't read the physical book yet, but I own it, so I'm going to
if that
dive back in.
Doesn't say enough about it, you're gonna reread it. That's how good it was. So the buzz was totally founded. There was reason for it.
And if you're a fan of Colleen Hoover,
definitely,
you would really like this book. We all happen to be passing around another book, Verity by Colleen Hoover. And then I read this right after that. And I'm like, there are some similarities there.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not quite as dark as Colleen Hoover. But it is.
It's very twisty turny. So of course this is spoiler free review, right? So, but just know there's a lot of twists and turns. You're going to be questioning yourself through the whole thing. You're going to be red herrings everywhere. What's happening?
I thought I knew who the killer was. And it wasn't really until he or she revealed themselves that I love reading and watching murder mysteries. So I feel like sometimes I can find who the killer is right away. And the whole time I'm like, it's this.
Right.
And I will tell you, the ending is something that you will be talking to your friends about. Because definitely. Like Colleen Hoover, or I'm assuming Colleen Hoover in general, because I've only read one of her books, but having that question at the end.
Definitely. And that leads you to message boards and other readers and hopping on your Goodreads or your Storygraph and, getting involved with a community, I think too, is such a huge thing with a really good book. And also lends itself to letting you know, that's a good book, because you want to know more.
And honestly, if Sulari ever watches us, could we have a sequel, please?
Legit. We need more. We want more. Keep going. We could keep going on the story forever.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Mine is a little bit different.
Okay.
Because we are doing the fantasy. Now, we do have mystery. There's a lot of excitement, but I chose Malice by Heather Walter, And this is a duology, so I believe the second book is already out. But in mine, we've got a Sleeping Beauty retelling.
Ooh.
Yes, very exciting. And I love Sleeping Beauty, so I'm always reading any kind of, and I love fairy tale retellings too.
Oh, yeah, same.
You know, they're so great.
Mm-hmm.
And this happens to be like a sapphic take on it. So we have Alice, who is kind of our Maleficent type character.
Mm-hmm.
She's considered a dark grace. So she has abilities. And she has a little shop, like a little apothecary, where she makes potions and spells and things for the aristocracy.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out that Aurora, our princess, is descended from a line of princesses who have been cursed by someone that was also a dark grace many, many generations ago. So our kingdom, they already accept that their princesses are going to die at a certain age. So these poor children are raised knowing on their 16th birthday they're going to die.
Wow.
So we have this really interesting dynamic and a really interesting friendship that grows when Aurora shows up to Alice asking for a grace, asking for a potion.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of sets in motion a really unexpected friendship, because we have the descendants of those obviously adversaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who expect very different things from each other. You know, preconceived notions, obviously, and there's a lot of bad blood there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really interesting take on what it would have been like. And I think we do get that a little bit in Disney's Maleficent. We get to see that kind of dynamic of kind of what happened behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So here we're doing, you know, generations ago, but still that same kind of storyline where we have this great adventure of growing, learning each other. It's a beautiful story of changing ideas you might have, preconceived notions about each other in a really magical way.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. Yeah, and I need to pick up the second one.
Yeah, so is the second one going to be a different retelling, or is it going to be like an expansion?
I think it's a continuation of this.
Okay.
So I haven't picked it up yet. It's on my TBR, so I'm hoping to do that very soon. Mm-hmm. I actually read this the first time when it came out last year, and I loved it so much, and it was like such a quick read. Which you look at it and you're like, oh my goodness. But we've got this, it's just like she writes in such a lyrical way that much like The Woman in the Library, I was done with it in like 2.5 days. And then I was like, oh, what do I do now? You know, and you're so in love with these characters. For me, especially Alice. I'm always attracted to the villain.
Sure.
That's just, are they morally gray? Sign me up. Right?
Yeah.
So
to a certain extent, I'm the same way. I always want to know why, because I don't like to think that people are inherently evil. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what got them to that point?
Absolutely.
And that's where I did really enjoy the Maleficent movies, because it's like, oh yeah, totally get it.
Yeah. Absolutely, like a good origin story, right? There's, like you said, there's always that psychology of like, what makes a villain a villain? And how do you, especially in Alice's point of view, where you're born into this, you're born with these abilities, which she doesn't want. You know, the whole idea of the aristocracy coming to her and paying her money to make these poisons, or like a good example, one of her first patrons is looking for a potion to make someone ugly.
Oh.
And she just hates that this is what she has to do. But she was born into this, just as Aurora was born into this. So we get to see how that transpires too. You know, of how do you shake that? Basically like a family lineage of darkness, or, you know, can you be that one that breaks the mold?
Yeah.
And we get that with Aurora too. Can she be the one that's going to survive this?
Yeah.
Can we figure out a way around this? No one has even cared to figure this out. They've just accepted it. You know, as we have in society when there are horrible things that happen, but they always happen, we just accept it instead of kind of fighting against it. So there's some big overarching themes in this that I think we can all relate to.
And do we find out why the initial curse happened?
We do.
Okay.
We do, yes. We get plenty of exposition, and we kind of find out as we're going, when we're trying to figure out how can we change the course of events, how can we change history, we have to go back and figure out what happened.
Yes. Yeah, because I imagine when Alice and Aurora come of age, they don't even know why everything is the way that it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just expected of them, and this is what you do, and these are the things that you do as your lot in life. And we're finding out, you don't have to do those things. You can challenge the authority and change it all.
Yeah.
So I absolutely loved it, and I feel like it was such a good book for this time, for September. It's getting me ready to dive into some deeper stuff, which we are going to tease what we're going to do next month, because I'm really excited.
Yes.
For October, of course.
Yes. So we have 2 spooky titles that are going to be coming up. Mine is going to be Gwendy's Button Box, which is a Stephen King and a co-writer, which I am not even going to try and pronounce his last name right now.
Yeah, we're going to have to Google that.
Yeah,
make sure you
we'll have to look
right.
into that. But it's a trilogy, and the 3rd book just came out. So I'm really excited to dive into it, and it's a short little book.
Yeah, that one's going to be exciting, and I love that we're doing King, because perfect for October. And I'm going to be doing The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. So hopefully you all have had a chance to perhaps watch it on Netflix, the first season. So I wanted to kind of bring that to the podcast, and we're going to talk about graphic novels again. Which, super excited. I am just mostly going to talk about volume 1. So if you have watched the show, you'll know pretty much what's going on. But if not, we'll explain. And excited to kind of show you guys what that's like. And of course, you can check it out here and on Hoopla. So get excited for October. We're excited.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be great. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. Stay tuned for our spooky month, and we'll catch you then. So thanks. Bye.